When you think of Madagascar, what comes to mind? Probably a beautiful, peaceful island nation, right? Well, in 2025, that whole image was just shattered. The streets filled up with protesters, social media absolutely exploded, and a shocking rumor started spreading like wildfire. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into the Gen Z uprising that honestly no one saw coming.
This was the one question on everybody's mind. It was the headline that went viral during the most chaotic election in the nation's recent history. I mean, this was a claim that threatened to topple a whole government and sent shockwaves clear across the country. But to really understand what happened, we've got to look way past the headline.
Because, look, whether the president actually fled or not, that rumor, it was just the tip of a massive political iceberg. The real story here is about an entire generation finding its voice and, completely changing the rules of the game forever.
Okay, so to get to the heart of this, we need to understand the frustration that was simmering long before Election Day ever rolled around. See, underneath what looked like a calm surface, something was seriously boiling over with the nation's youth.
The official story was very different. President Rajoelina's whole campaign was built on this message of stability and progress. He was a former DJ, a media entrepreneur, and he presented this image of a modernizing country that was really on the upswing. That was the narrative they were pushing.
But then you look at a chart like this, and it tells a completely different story. For anyone under 30, the reality was rising unemployment and this deep sense of being ignored. You had young graduates who just couldn't find decent work, and that frustration was growing every single day. The gap between the official story and what they were actually living through, it was huge.
So where did this generation go to voice all that frustration? You guessed it, online. With over 60% of them getting their news straight from social media, platforms like TikTok and X, well, they became the main stage for political debate. Influencers, almost overnight, basically became the new political commentators. All this online anger was just a powder keg waiting for a match. And that match, it came in the form of a direct challenge to their democratic rights, turning all that digital chatter into a powerful real-world movement.
So here's the spark. Widespread reports start coming out that thousands of young people, especially in the cities, found out their names were just missing from the voter rolls. For a generation that already felt like they had no voice, this felt like a deliberate move to silence them for good.
And the jump from online outrage to a real-world movement was unbelievably fast. I mean, what started as anger over voter rolls quickly blew up into a viral hashtag #MyVoteMyRight. And as you can see from the timeline, in just 5 days, it spilled onto the streets of the capital, Antananarivo, in the biggest youth-led protest the country had seen in decades. All of this tension finally came to a head on February 25th. Election Day, it turned out, wasn't some calm day of civic duty. Nope, it was a day of pure chaos, and it was documented and broadcast to the world by the very same generation that was at the center of the storm.
The whole process it broke down. You had polling stations opening super late, reports were flying around about ballot shortages, and international observers were already warning about serious irregularities. But Gen Z voters didn't just sit back and watch this happen. They live-streamed it, showing the world videos of the chaos as it was all unfolding.
And then, this headline dropped like an absolute bomb. It spread across social media in minutes, just pouring gasoline on an already raging fire. In a moment of extreme tension and mistrust, this single sentence shook the entire country to its core.
And just like that, an information war erupted. So on one side, you had the viral story claiming the president had abandoned ship and fled to Dubai. But on the other, the government issued a flat-out denial, saying he had simply moved to a secure location for his own safety. But in all that chaos, the rumor was way more powerful than the official statement.
And to make things even crazier, a flood of misinformation just took over. A deepfake video that looked like it showed the president sipping coffee in Dubai went viral, destroying what little public trust was left. Fact-checkers just couldn't keep up. The line between what was real and what was fake had completely vanished.
So what happened after all the dust settled? Well, the immediate result of the election is almost beside the point. The really crucial thing here is that in the aftermath, the entire political landscape of Madagascar had been fundamentally and permanently changed.
A few days later, President Rajoelina did reappear in a televised address, and while the ruling party managed to hold on to power, it was by a razor-thin margin. The opposition, now led by younger politicians, gained huge momentum. Gen Z had found its political voice, and believe me, it was loud. So let's break this down. The trigger for all of this was economic frustration. No jobs, no opportunities. The catalyst was that feeling of being shut out of the vote. The amplifier, well, that was the incredible power of digital organizing. And the ultimate outcome? The political awakening of an entire generation. They proved they were a force you absolutely had to reckon with.
And that really brings us to the core takeaway of this whole thing. The most important story wasn't about where a president was or wasn't. It was about a generation that was told to be quiet, but instead decided to shout, to organize, and to demand to be heard. So, this leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? Madagascar's Gen Z just rewrote their country's political playbook using digital tools and grassroots passion. So, is this just a one-off event, or are we seeing the start of a new global wave where the youth are no longer just the future of politics, but its most powerful force, right here, right now?